Hi everybody, and welcome to part one of building a basic data loading web app from scratch. And in this part of the tutorial, we're going to do the basic setup, which is to create our HTML page. So as I'm sure most of you are familiar, very often, well, less often now than you used to, you see web pages end with .html. And the HTML file provides most of the structure, or a lot of the fundamental structure for our web app / web page. And it's also sort of the mixing place for all the different types of files and code that we use to make it look pretty and interactive. And so to get started, we are going to launch Aptana Studio, which you should have installed by now. So I'm just going to do that. You can see it coming up on my screen here. And the first thing it's going to ask you to do is select a workspace. What's a workspace? It's really just a folder. So as you can see here, I have a folder on my desktop called DataJ and InfoViz, and I am just going to say, yep, that sounds fine. I'm going to use that as my quote-unquote workspace. Now in here, because I already have a few projects, you can see there are brilliant folder names there. But to get started, we're going to create a new web project. And what that's going to do is it's going to give us another folder that collects all of the files related to this particular web app. So to do that, I'm going to go File, New, Web Project. And really all this is going to do, as I said, is create a folder. So I'm just going to call this Basic Web App. And we're just going to say Finish. And so as you can see, it's appeared in my Project Explorer here. First of all, sorry. And if for some reason you lose this, like, oh no, I closed my project window, you can always come to Window, Show View, and go to Project Explorer, and boom, there it is back again. Now if I click the plus button here, you can see there isn't actually anything in here. And so the first thing that we need to do is, of course, create a file to go in there. And our basic building block here is going to be an HTML page. So in this case now, I'm going to go back to the File menu and say New from Template. And you see there's all kinds of file formats here, but we're going to go straight to HTML. And we're going to do something called HTML 4.01 transitional. Now, the difference between strict and transitional has to do with the kind of errors that Aptana will warn you about. For our purposes, those aren't so important. So just know that you're going to go with a 4.1 transitional, 4.01 transitional. And hopefully it's going to actually create that file for me now. Did that work? Did I lose it? Come here. There we are. Okay, great. So now we can see we've got this file. It says untitled HTML. First thing I'm going to do, it's got a bunch of code in here. First thing I'm going to do is just save this. And so I'm going to go File, Save As, and it's going to say to a directory in a local file system or in a project. I'm going to say Project. Do I want to replace the editor content? Sure. And so now I've chosen my project. I'm going to put in Basic Web App as my file name. Now, I don't know why this is, because we told Aptana at the beginning that what we wanted to do was create an HTML file. So I'm not sure why we have to explicitly tell it that we want it to have a .html extension, but we do. So I'm going to add that extension, hit OK. And now I can see that this file has been renamed in the window here, and also that it appears in my project list, which is great. Now, what does this project look like? The easiest way to test that is going to be to come to our folders. Woo, all kinds of stuff here. Wow, how is this organized? Here we are. Okay, and here I can see Basic Web App, and there I see my Basic Web App web page. So just to see what this looks like so far, what that default code produces, you can see here we are. I've got basic web app.html. This is popped up in Firefox because that's the association I have, or you could right click and say open with Firefox. And it says new web project page. And if I flip back to Aptana Studio here, I can see, oh, okay, I've got this h1 tag and new web project page is there. I also have this title tag. So just to sort of see what happens when we start editing things, if I delete this new web project and I put in instead Susan's web app, and I'm going to just Control S it there. I get very comfortable doing Control S. and I flip back to my HTML page. Oh, there you go. Look at that title tag. The title tag is what appears in the browser window there. So pretty simple, and I could probably do the same thing here. So this is my web project. Control save again. In case you aren't noticing, there's an asterisk that appears right here when you've changed the file and haven't saved it. So if I come back to my thing, oh, look at that. So now, now that we've done that, what I want to do is just create some basic content containers on this page. So I'll leave this h1 tag, but I'm also going to create a bunch of div tags. Now, a div tag, you hopefully know at this point, is basically just a box on the web page. And the way that we are going to be able to tell our different div boxes apart is we're going to give them individual ID attributes. And so the nice thing about Aptana Studio, and one of the reasons why we like it, is because you can see it's kind of colored things differently here depending on what they are. So we've got this sort of brownish red here, which is what they use for tag names. And then there's this brighter red that's used for attributes. We've got strings in blue, and kind of everything else is in black. Our carrots are in blue here. So it helps us sort of see the structure of the code on our page. And now as soon as I do this, I'm going to say div ID equals, and I put in double quotes, and it automatically closed it for me, which is nice. I don't have to worry about doing that myself. And I'm just going to put in, this is me and my brilliant naming conventions, I'm going to put in page div1, right? And you see as soon as I close that div tag, it actually, or the first part of the div tag, it creates the closing tag for me. So I'm just going to div ID equals page div2. I'm just going to put 4 on here. Div ID equals page div3. You could also copy and paste and change these IDs. But it's very important to keep in mind that every div, you shouldn't have 2 divs on the page that have the same ID tag. When we get to classes, you'll see that often they can have, multiple divs can have the same class. They should have the same class. But in the case of IDs, they should always be unique. And so here we go, page div4. And there we go. Now, if we go back to our Firefox window here, and we reload it, nothing's really happened. Why? Because we put the boxes on the page, but we haven't put anything inside them, and we haven't told the page anything about how they should look. So if we just want to make sure that they're there, we're just going to put a little bit of content in here, and I'm going to say this is div1, right? So this is just text, and this is the thing with HTML, right? If I put something inside a div that's just text, that's exactly what it shows up like. And so just so I can tell them apart here, I'm going to just customize the text, make it individual, and come back to my web page, preview page, and reload it. Oh, what do you know? There's my content magically on the page. So for the basic building, getting content on a web page, that's all there is to it. In the next video, we're going to actually create a cascading style sheets file, a .css file, and that's going to let us apply some shape and styling to those divs so they start to look like real elements on a web page. So see you in a few minutes.